Hello, everybody. I am Joe Andrews. I am here to kind of facilitate a Q&A. This is the fourth one that we've done in the last month. So we've done every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. I've been in the past pulling questions from the group, but I'm experimenting with something for the next couple weeks where we're going to use this Slido service to submit and upvote your questions. So the link is on the Facebook post. If you're watching us live, you can interact there and upvote posts, or you can, if you join us through our Zoom link, you can interact there and see it in the Zoom chat. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here with these first questions. I have Kyle's on the line right now. I don't know, Kyle, if you want to do a quick 15-second introduction of yourself or you just want to sit back. No worries there. I'll give just a second here while I'm waiting for this. There you are.
So my name is Kyle Roberts. I'm the aquatics director at the Sheridan County YMCA, but I've been doing aquatics for, I've been a director for almost 10 years now, but running many facilities, and then this is my second facility I've run, and then I've been a part of in a coordinator or guard at several others, lakes, rivers, indoor, outdoor, saltwater pools, indoor, like everything.
Great. What's your favorite area of aquatics, or like the one that you kind of tend to have like the most specialty in?
Probably facility. So mechanical, chemical. That's probably my where I have more enjoyments. But I do. I teach the lifeguard classes. I'm an LGI, so I'm always doing that. And then probably the maintenance end of things more so.
Great. Yep. Nope. That's similar to my background. I've kind of done a little bit of everything. I'd say lifeguard or facility maintenance, lifeguarding, and then like maybe tied with lifeguarding is budgeting, admin, analysis type of stuff. So, all right. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, let's see how this comes across on your end. I don't know if you took a look at the questions and answers that I've been posting. Let's see. All right. So I pulled it up here. My question for the group, which was going to be, does anybody have any experience with solid acid tablet feeders? Do you have any experience with those ones?
No, my only experience is muriatic and CO2.
Yeah, and that's what I've used as well recently also. So what I'm going to see what we can do, we're going to just hit that question as answered. Cool. I love how that works. Okay. I've got kind of a multi-screen setup here, so we're trying to see how this works. So the next question that we've got, AJ asked on the Aquatics Directors and Managers group, vomit in the pool, how long do you shut down for? I've always treated it as a 24-hour issue and crank the chlorine located in Oregon. And one of the things that I had to do on that one was I had to paraphrase him a little bit because I only get like so many characters on the Slido link. So, on that one, we treat vomit in the pool generally as a solid, just like a solid fecal incident. And there were some great shares in the group about some different documents from the CDC and other sources that kind of explained why it's treated the same way, even though in many cases the vomit isn't necessarily illness driven. It's driven because kid choked on water and just had dinner and coughed it up during swim lessons. So I don't know if you got anything you want to add on that one.
I mean, if it's if it's chunky, yes, I treat it as a fecal incident. Usually shut down 30 minutes ish. My chlorine levels are kept up so that accommodates that pretty well. And then if it's a spit up, so where there's nothing coming out other than mostly water, usually it's we just my guards just clean up if there is anything to clean up. Usually there's like a film type thing on the surface. Usually that just gets scooped up, pulled out, and then we just continue as normal.
Yep, great. No, that's similar. And I think sometimes it takes longer for the guards to clean up the vomit than it actually does
Yes.
for the downtime that it's
Yeah.
supposed to have. It's like by the time that last bit's getting scooped out, it's like, nope, this is basically disinfected anything that's in there. But
Yeah.
so all right. So switching over to the next question, and this was a question I had out to the group is what certification do you prefer more for pool operations, CPO or AFO or something else? So I don't have any experience with AFO. I've been thinking about getting the cert at some point. Um, your thoughts?
I'm an AFO. So I've worked at a lot of facilities that had CPO and I've come in as an AFO. Actually, the state that I just moved to, we had a state inspector come in and ask for my CPO certification number. And I said, well, I'm an AFO. And he's like, well, that doesn't qualify. I'm like, check your book. So he went and looked, he never met an AFO before. So it's not as common it's my understanding, but um, I have worked with a lot of CPOs and I have gone over the CPO material. And I mean, you're a CPO instructor, so you could probably say more to that. But my impression is AFO is more. Do you know the difference between MD and OD, medical doctor and doctor
Yeah.
of osteo, whatever it is?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a similar aspect. The AFO is more broad and takes a look at a broader picture and looks at many different aspects to get the solution or figure out how to address it. Whereas CPO is very detail oriented, like here's the pinpoint, I'm gonna hit this. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense based off of where the organizations come from. I mean, if you look at AFO, it's by the National Rec and Park Association that kind of tends to be more broad management based. And I think I have noticed a trend. Um, a lot of people that tend to try to go career path in terms of P&R management versus aquatics professionals tend to focus more on AFO versus CPO tends to be, I think it's a little more common. Also, it's a little more straightforward to become an instructor. So, whereas it's more driven by construction industry, health officials, so they really get in the weeds on what that involves. So, that's kind of what I was thinking, and I appreciate that feedback. That's good to know. I know there are a few AFOs out there. I actually texted a couple of them I know, trying to get them to come on this morning, but it's summer, so everyone's busy. So I have next to zero expectations of who I'm going to get each week, which is kind of fun. So we answered that question. Let's see here. Um, excuse me. One that I'd kind of like to talk about is, talk about your first aquatic supervisor you worked for. Key things you've taken away from them, both good and bad. And I think part of my impetus for putting this question in was because two reasons. I've got a whole bunch of staff training right now. I've got several people that I'm just getting up to speed on my maintenance and operations side. And then also I floated that question out there because I wanted to get to show the group kind of some different question formats as I set it up throughout the week. So, you got any thoughts that you want to share on yours, or do you want me to jump in and go first?
You go first.
Okay, so it's actually funny that my first aquatic supervisor was a swim coach, was my high school swim coach, and everything else. Ran my lifeguarding class through the high school. It was just funny because, like, kind of assumed I was going to be working at the pool. He was just really entertaining the first time when I was hired. He like came out right after high school swim season was over. Swim lessons were in the pool. Age group swim team was about to start. Comes in, come here. Sits down in the office. Would you have any interest in starting working? It was like, oh yeah, great. When do you want me to start? About 10 minutes ago. Literally just threw stuff on and threw me out on the stand. I think one of the things I really learned is kind of some resourcefulness. I mean, he was just always trying to make things better. I think one of the biggest things that I learned from that supervisor was kind of some implied how to build team dynamics and just the way he cultivated a positive environment. And then the second thing is he was always finding little things to make the facility nicer for the patrons. And they really appreciated that. That was something that even people that took over after he went on to other things, and from talking through people, it's a small industry wherever you're at. That was one of the things that I really took away, is just always look for little things of quality and life improvements, make things a little bit nicer for the facility. And patrons notice it, and they notice it when you're out doing it, or you're out just making a little things that only take a bit, but if you're doing it regularly, people notice.
Yeah, I would have to say that my probably my actual first one was not not anything that stuck out. It was my second one, so it was just a summer one. So I was only there for maybe 3 months, but then went and moved into, believe it or not, the facility I'm currently operating was where I first started guarding, essentially. And it was an indoor facility. Wyoming, we don't have long outdoor seasons. It's mostly indoor. So the gal that I worked for at that time was just super personable. Seemed to always have an interest in what was going on in the staff's lives, trying to make sure that she was there to make sure that we were doing our job, but she was also there to make sure that, hey, are we getting what we need to get? How's school? How are you doing? Things like that. Just very personable. So that definitely stuck out. Created a great team dynamic. There wasn't ever, I don't think I can ever think of a time where there was this struggle within the staff as a lifeguard of going, okay, this person I don't like, this person doesn't like me, this person, like, there was none of that. It was just everybody was really awesome. And she did a great job bringing on staff. So, and cultivating that culture. So that's something I've taken, trying to move forward, is create a good culture for the pool environment.
No, that's great, and that makes it fun, right? Like, where
Yeah,
it's fun to work.
right.
All right, next question. Rialto asked on the Facebook. So what I did was I logged in on like a private incognito tab, and shot in some of the questions that came up from the group. So ones that I kind of thought might be worth talking about. Um, they asked, "Do you know or have been to a Build a Pool conference in Colorado Springs? Looking for general information." And on that one, I don't have any direct experience with it. I've heard good things. I've seen some of the materials that folks have put out from that organization. So it seems good. I haven't heard anyone ever say anything bad. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
And then,
All right, next question. Let's see here. This was kind of an interesting one. I might actually stall on it for just a second, because I want to, one of my colleagues, Melissa, who usually jumps on the calls, has some thoughts on this. So I'm going to skip that one for right now, because I think she had an appointment. So what we'll do is we'll talk about the next one. So Cynthia Joe asked about swim coaches using whistles during swim practice. Does that conflict with lifeguard communications and causing confusion for other swimmers? That one, I see it. I can see where people aren't used to it. One of the things that we've had a lot of success with is communicating on the front end and telling people, hey, there's going to be a swim practice coach is doing their starts practice as people are coming in. You're going to hear extra whistles. Our lifeguards are going to really get on their whistles and let you know. You're going to hear long. We're going to extra communicate how that happens to you. So just expect lots of whistles today when you're coming in. And then also having the guards communicate with the coach is that, like, hey, if something goes wrong, we actually use an air horn also. So if something big happens when the coaches are blowing whistles, we're going to hit that air horn, and that's going to really get people's attention. That's working at a larger facility. I've done it in smaller facilities that I've worked at before. It's a nuisance, and it's not something the coaches I really like to see them do every day, but it's, they need to do it so the kids know, hey, short whistle, get behind the blocks, long whistle, step up, take your mark, go. So I don't know if you've got experience working with that and managing that.
yeah, the last facility of that outdoor facility in Kansas, we had swim program there all summer, and it didn't really interfere. I didn't have so I when I saw that question, I was like, oh, that's interesting because it was never an issue, maybe because it's been like that for the last 20 years, 15 years, and it was just an expectation. But we also don't have a lot of patrons in the water at the same time. Typically, that time during the swim team, we also had our swim lessons going on, and then water walking in our lazy river, and that was isolated, kind of separated away from the main pool area. So it really didn't conflict. I can definitely see that conflicting if it's a tight facility where you have a lot of features in one immediate area. Those I can see maybe those whistles causing concern, and making communication difficult.
Yeah, and the last thought I'd have on that is programming matters. So if you're doing like an I Chi style, Tai Chi style, like slow, relaxing water fitness class, hopefully you don't have that programmed anywhere near your swim teams to start with, because there's already going to be issues there. But yeah, and then also small facilities depends on your acoustics. Some facilities, gosh, one whistle is just going to boom off the walls for a while. So that's another one. Just, it depends.
Yeah.
So this was a good one. Maria asked about a pool motor going out. With the water sitting for a week and a half with no flow, is it better to drain and refill or some treatment? And for reference, it was an 8-lane indoor pool. You want to take that one first on your thoughts if you've ever dealt with that?
Week and a half, that's a long time. Trying to think if I've had an instance. I did have an instance where that happened. It was on my lazy river, but it was very easy. It was easier for me to drain that facility because lazy river was only 150,000 gallons, 200,000 gallons. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's an easy drain. But if it was my 650, 700,000 gallon pool, which this is an 8-lane, probably 25, 50. I don't know.
I think she just said 8-lane indoor pool. So I don't think there was a ton.
Unless it's a big indoor pool. Anyway, it's substantial. I would I would probably do my best to prolong or to prevent draining. If I can maintain, I would probably, just off the top of my head, because I've never dealt with it, what I would do is I'd throw the vacuum in there and put chemical directly into the water. And then that vacuum moving around in the water will help circulate the chemical just enough, especially with no patrons in the water. It probably would sit okay. If I start noticing any signs of, and it's an indoor pool, so there's less likely for algae to develop quickly. I'd chance it and try to do that route before draining it, because if I do have a problem, I'm gonna end up draining it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I this one resonated with me because I had so I've got 4 bodies of water at my current pool that we have a 500,000 gallon, 50-meter pool. We've got, and that's indoor.
Okay.
25,000 gallon indoor warm water pool, 125,000 gallon 6-lane lap pool outside. So it's just a short 25-meter, all pretty shallow pool, and then like an 80,000 gallon leisure pool. And the lap pool motor went out. We use it year round for swim teams. They work out outside all year unless it's super, super, super cold. Like, and we de-ice and we're breaking up ice on the deck for a path into the pool and out. But I had a mechanical seal go out on a motor. It showed signs of a mechanical seal. So no big deal. Take the motor offline. New seal came in a couple days. Reseated it, but the bearing plate that mechanical seal sat against was just corroded to heck. And we cleaned it up the best we could. We, sent it back together, leaking everywhere. Um, Pulled it back apart, tried to clean up a little bit more, even you know, like sealed it with marine grade RTV as another, very careful with a dial indicator, trying to just make sure we got that thing as flat as we could and still leaking. So we ended up having to, that pool went down. It was in February because it started leaking bad on the last day of our state champs meet. So it's like just get through the meet, get through the meet. I
Yeah.
don't care that the mechanical room is a freaking mess. Just get me through this meet, and then we shut it down. After a week and a half of messing around with it, we sent it off to our motor shop, and it was May, early May,
Ooh.
before we got it back because of parts in the supply chain. Um, I'm kind of thinking of a conference presentation about something along the lines of screw just in time inventory and kind of taking a complete different approach to how I order parts and stock parts because it's insane. Um, but back to the question, what we did was we super chlorinated it. I mean, I think I drove it up to like 6 parts per million. Um, hand dosing, leaving the vacuum running in it. And it did okay for a while. I think we kept it for about 3 weeks, but then after 3 weeks, it just stuff started to take hold. We couldn't, and we didn't have the staffing to go out there and just brush the heck out of it every day and stuff. So
Yeah.
it started to go. At that point, I did a partial drain and refill. I drained it down enough that I could get in there and really scrub it. And then refilled, and it was back up and running in a week. My advice with it is temper expectations when you communicate to the public. Yes, parts are in, things are up and running, but we're going to wait to open until we can verify water quality, which, the CPO and me, if it's been down for a week and a half, says, 24 hours of turnovers. In theory, you're going to get about 4 turnovers. If you've got a modern filtration system, that should be good, if you're maintaining some quality. But so, next question is from Kristen asks, has anyone done a bring a friend to work day as a way to recruit future staff? This is our first time and tricks would be appreciated. And she talked about she had a plan and everything, but it's too long to get into the trying to run things this way. So we haven't done it. I don't know if you guys have done anything with it.
I mean, my last facility, I ran a junior guard program that was kind of helpful. But I do periodically get staff that come up to me and say, "Hey, my friend is interested but isn't sure. Can they shadow me?" And so, I mean, it kind of plays into that bring a friend. It's not a coordinated thing, but yeah, I say, yeah, hey, if that honestly, word of mouth is the best way for me to get staff, and if having them come to work and kind of see how things operate is a way to put them over the edge and get an application put in, I say do it. My only hesitation with that is that the guard needs to be still diligent in what they're doing, because when it's their friends, that oftentimes leads to other problems. But I've always said that's okay, and I think it's a great idea. Not a bad idea at all.
Yeah, I think it's great, and it's a time to you try to pick a day that's not super crazy, and it's hard to tell, right? You can't like book something out in advance. It's going to be like we're going to pick it for a 78-degree day where we're going to have light crowds and nobody's going to call out.
Yeah.
But I think it's great. I think just trying to get a good snapshot. Don't make it too much of a dog and pony show of like, oh, this is all the great things when we do, and people are like, we don't do this every day.
Yeah.
Like, like, like for us, I could see doing it where, you know, steady day, we assign them to somebody else for, or they maybe what I would do is put them at like have them rotate backwards almost. Like I would get involved and like run them through like different rotations, but I would send them one way versus our primary rotation that's going another way, so they're getting different people.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
good idea. I was
And
gonna
then
say, I was gonna say since it's like organized like that, I don't know if she mentioned that, but uh, having them shadow somebody else other than their
yeah.
friend, that way it kind of removes some of those problems, hopefully. But yeah, I like that reverse rotation.
Yeah, it might be interesting to see. I mean, it'd be a hot mess. I mean, it depends on how many stands you have and stuff, but I don't know. So, all right, next one. Jamie asked, do you have a practice of not requiring staff to wear a top while guarding? Questions about indoor, outdoor temps and sun and protection plans. And I think this one's driven. It looks like the Midwest is having an extreme heat wave. And
Yep.
I don't know if you've got experience with it right now where you're at and what's going on.
So the last facility I ran was Midwest Kansas, Central Kansas, and right now my old facility they were hot right now. So what I did is I was fine. Now all my staff, all my female staff had one piece suits that had guard on it, so I was totally okay with them having the shirt off during rotation, but they still had to wear bottoms.
Mm-hmm.
The male staff obviously didn't have if they just didn't wear their shirt, they had guard trunks on that identified themselves. They wore sun visors. I permitted them during, now I'm kind of going away from just the top, but to stay cool, I permitted them that once they were moving from one station to another, that if they needed to do a quick dip, they could jump in, do a quick dip, hop out, continue on to their rotation. Um, uh, yeah, so I, I was totally fine with the tops coming off because it was super hot out there, especially when you get into Midwest and East Coast, and I mean West Coast has it too, but that humidity that that comes with the heat, it's rough when you're wearing a t-shirt, a cotton t-shirt, and it's not fun.
Yeah, we get hot, but not like that, and not
Yeah.
and not usually that long. At least where I'm at, on our hot days, we let them the quick dip again. That's a great one. We do that. I don't. And maybe this is just because I live in the, um, progressive utopia of Oregon, where we get into some of the gender issues a lot more and equality. I think for us, we've got a couple different shirt options, and then we also do permit them to wear like a rash guard. And the thing with the rash guard is it's the sun protection, and they tend to stay cooler. Problem is we don't issue those. We issue them for our swim lesson instructors, and that actually was a really helpful thing for standardizing uniforms. Swim instructors, whatever you want to cover on your bottom half, but top half, everybody's in a rash guard, a branded rash guard. But yeah, I don't know that we've ran into it much. So I think we allow them to, on those really hot days, but they're usually wearing a guard hat, guard belt with their tube and everything else in rotation. So another mechanical one coming up here. I actually like this one. I had other thoughts on this one. Megan was looking for camera recommendations, and it was kind of weird the way it was worded, to protect staff. I wasn't exactly sure what she was going for there, but we rent water in a local rec center for swim lessons. HVAC isn't great. Everything rusts. Tried the Nest cams, and they would only run for a day or two before batteries. I think the HVAC's a bigger problem than your cameras.
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if stuff's rusting out really quick, that's a problem, and that probably, depending on your jurisdiction, could be an occupational health problem with if things are rusting that quickly. I don't know that I've ran into any experience. Maybe the problem is for the remote monitoring, right? Like if you had
Mhm.
something that was a little more ruggedized and sealed, you might be able to like break it out. I don't think there's a simple turnkey solution other than maybe getting one of those cameras in a enclosed box, but then you have to ventilate it because those things usually don't do too well with high heat and they need airflow. It just feels weird. I mean, like if you really wanted to go complicated, you could take, again, this is for somebody who likes to play with video stuff like we are now. You could take a GoPro and run a long cable out of it to a streaming box to then kick it out to a unlisted YouTube feed or something like that. But again, you're getting overly complicated. There might be some ruggedized cameras you could buy, that you would get into like a pro DVR setup, but I don't. I'm guessing by the questions and the way it's worded, I don't think it's a. I don't. I think they're fairly limited on budget.
Yeah, and the Arlo, I would suggest Arlo if she was wanting to go that route, not Nest. Arlo seems to be pretty robust. I've had them. The thing is, it's not a commercial grade camera; it's a consumer camera. So there's going to be the robustity is not there. But the Arlo cameras do permit for, if it's an outdoor facility, they do have solar adaptations. Well, it's actually not; it's indoor HVAC. So you can, but it does have that adaptation that you can plug a hard line into it if you can get power to it, and it will just constantly be on. But again, getting complicated. I actually responded to this question on the Facebook page, and if you're going to go with a camera system, it's better not to go that route. It's just take the bite the bullet and get a proper system. It's going to cost you, but it's going to be a lot less headache in the long run. But again, I think I would agree, if we're spending tens of thousands of dollars, like I just got our system updated with cameras. I was the one that pushed that on our facility to get new cameras, and that was $70,000 to get. But that's just the whole facility. That's not just the aquatics. But it's expensive. But if you're having HVAC problems, I'd be focusing that money on that versus the cameras.
Yeah, they did talk about their renting pool space, so I don't know, what those dynamics are if they, it's
Yeah.
just a facility they don't have control over, but still, yeah, cameras are expensive. I know for us, we have on-site DVRs that are very dated. I saw some great memes going around this week. I should have pulled it up into the chat before to pull up, but the images from the new James Webb satellite, perfect detail in space, years of, millions of miles away, security camera that's 10 feet away from a suspect and you can't see anything. Yeah, I know we run into issues with our IT, not issues, I shouldn't say that. We have an IT department that's looking out for our organization's best interest from their perspective. And so it's hard for us to move stuff like that without doing very robust enterprise grade. But we're working for a city municipal government that I think has like 500 employees and is, a city of 80,000 people. So it's a little bit more of a built organization. But there's also some more infrastructure once it's in place. So quick sidebar on that. Do you have cameras on your water?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So like when I came in, so this facility that I just got back, they just did a huge addition, brand new aquatic facility 2-3 years ago. But for the last 2-3 years, they haven't had any cameras. And that was a major red flag for me, especially with the pool on the water. I was like, we got to at least get cameras in the water. But then the board was like, well, if we're doing cameras in the pool, might as well do it in the rest of the building. So, but yes, I've got 6 cameras in my pool, my indoor facility now. I've got a rec pool and a 6-lane lap pool, 25 yard, and a bunch, 2 slides. For our town, it's a large facility for our town. Our town's only about 18,000, 19,000 people. But it's a really nice large facility in contrast to some bigger areas like Oregon that have a lot bigger population than Wyoming, which is where I'm currently at.
Yeah, I mean, I've come from very small towns. Like the, I mean, it sounds like your town's about the same size as the town I live in. I live in a town of about 15,000. That's, it's about a 25-mile drive each way
Yeah.
to my pool. Um,
Yeah,
but so
15,000's big in Wyoming.
right, right. I mean, my first aquatics director job was in a town of 3,600 people with a 5 lane 25-yard pool that did not have recirculating gutters. It went straight to waste. All
Oh,
the gutter water went straight to waste. So it there was return inlets that went to the main drain, but everything at top just went to waste. Which actually, like, in the 1940s when the pool was built and they didn't pay for water, they heating oil was dirt cheap, and it was an outdoor seasonal pool. It kind of makes sense.
yeah.
Then they built a building around it. I never had combined chlorine problems in that pool,
Well,
even
that's
when
what I
I
was
would
about to
load,
say. Yeah,
because it's total like it's constantly getting diluted. But yeah, so I've been there on all the different sizes of facilities, so it's pretty interesting. That sounds like a nice size pool though. I ask because I know some people who, it's interesting because they're skeptical of having cameras on the water, because when something goes wrong, the statement that I've heard, and I don't know that I fully agree with it, I see some of the merits, is all you're doing is memorializing victims, because that will end up, I think it's going to catch when things go right. But then I've also heard more recently another case of, I think I was at the AOAP conference. I can't remember who I was talking to, but they kind of said, well, if you have the footage that shows something went wrong, it's going to make it really easy for us to just decide to settle and move on.
mm.
So I
Yeah, and
kind of go,
I think
yeah,
there's other benefits that aren't directly related to major events that result in a lawsuit. I mean, there are instances where there's just little patron disputes or patrons with lifeguard disputes. Now, and this is where I get the protecting the staff, because I have had this happen where hey, kids kicked out, mom comes flying in or dad comes flying in, chewing out the guards, and they busted into my guard area and started asking who kicked my kid out. Yeah, like we had to call the police and stuff like that. But we don't have at that instant, it was like there was no camera in that facility at that time. And it's like having those cameras there will help the investigation go, okay, who did what was said. And it kind of protects my staff on that, because I've got a lot of staff that members go and say that they cussed their kid out or they cussed this kid out, or so if your facility allows audio. But then there's also like the guard didn't do anything. Well, let's go review the footage, and it's okay. I can clearly see the guard going over to the situation that's non-emergent, addressing the patron. My shift leads addressing the patron, trying to handle it. I mean, it's just stuff to help protect, and then I can also back up my staff. I can know for sure. Okay, my staff did what they were supposed to do, and I can back them up now. And then the third thing, I don't know how many I've gone through, but I say another one would be that uh, my staff are now a little bit more on guard, knowing that there are cameras. There isn't as much lax happening when I leave.
yeah, you can always be watching, which is
Yeah,
great, and to check in on the shenanigans.
yeah,
Yeah, I've probably softened a little bit on it in recent years. I'm I'm pushing for more cameras. I just want to make sure we do it right. It's been really helpful on the entrance and exits to locker rooms, because then you can see, okay, during this time is when something went missing. These were the only two people that were in and out of there, and it helps narrow down some of those
yeah.
theft stuff. When a child left or parent left, and so I agree with you. I think your explanation there is really good on that. So, all right, next question. Um, We've got Judith. She conducted a poll. I thought this was a fun little one. Do you have juice boxes in your first aid kit? And I don't know if you responded and chimed in on that one.
No, I didn't. I didn't see that one. That's funny.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting, and there was we keep the glucose tablets in. That's been a fairly recent addition. Another one that we have on site at all times, not only for diabetic emergencies, but also for upset children while applying band-aids and grouchy lifeguards, is popsicles.
Mm,
Lots of popsicles everywhere.
yeah. Yeah, popsicles are
Always.
big. That was more in my outdoor facility, not as much as my indoor facility, but popsicles are definitely a thing. But in regards to diabetics and the medical emergencies that result from that, it's glucose tablets as well.
Yeah. Do you go through like an outside source for stocking your first aid kits, or do you manage it yourself?
Management myself, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's not an easy thing to do some days because I have to manage the entire facility's first
Hmm.
aid related items. I'm the only right now. I'm trying to get things bolstered up, but I'm the only Red Cross certified instructor in the facility, which makes it difficult to try and keep AEDs up and going, first aid kits going well, stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I think that's a reality for everyone and everywhere, is, it, and sometimes it's, once you get the system going, it's a little easier, but it's tough. I've been there. I feel like that's one I finally have gotten down, and it's taken me 5 years at my facility to really get it like tuned into where it's pretty easy. Um, so that is another question done. Let's switch over. Let's see here. There's a nice discussion about online. This instructor bought some iPads, and they're using an eye auditor app, which kind of sounds like an Ellis program, just off the top of my head. Um, but they're looking for other aquatics management. Wrong button. Other aquatics management apps. I know I've played around a little bit with Aquatics. We did a trial, but we really didn't have enough time to fully deploy it. Um, I'm not familiar with the iAuditor app. We took a peek at Hydro Apps. We had a demo of that also,
Okay.
and it seems robust. It seems good. We just didn't have the internal capacity and buy-in from our supervisory level to try to get it rolled out. I don't know if you've got experience with either any of those.
Um, uh, so I do use a program for my scheduling and communication, but I don't use anything for my. I did look into Aquatics as well, and I was on the fence on that one because what I primarily needed was a robust scheduling software, and I felt like Aquatics didn't quite have the robustity that I wanted. Um, having gone through it a little bit more than I have, probably have more to speak to that. But I found a program called Deputy, and it is extremely robust, very easy to use, very easy for the staff to use for shifts, getting shifts covered, switching shifts, scheduling. On my part, it cut my time. I'm doing schedules in about a third of the time that I was before. Instead of a couple days, I'm doing it in a day. Um, and then there's the information of the staff is all on there. So if they need to communicate with each other, their information's on there. There's no like call list. I still do call lists, but everybody's got a phone now. They just pull up their phone, go, oh, I need to call this person. I don't have their number. They go to the app. There's their number. And then there's a news feed on it as well. And so they can communicate via the news feed. So there's like a very robust software for the scheduling of things. And then it's just very user friendly and very easy for the staff to use when communicating with each other.
And that's called Deputy.
Yeah, it's called Deputy Scheduling.
Cool. I'll look into that. That sounds interesting. We currently use Window Work, which is always on all the groups.
And I've used that before at another facility, and I like when to work. There's one or two things about when to work that I like that deputy doesn't do, but there's a lot of things deputy does that that's why I went with that.
Yeah. No, I'm always interested to see what everybody else does. Um, kind of a spin-off question off of that. How far out do you schedule?
Month.
On, like do you schedule out like for your staff schedules? Do they roll out like a month ahead, a week ahead, 3 weeks
So
ahead?
So my schedule goes out a month and I do the scheduling a week in advance of the next month. So the new schedule rolls out about a week in advance of that new month. So I'll be doing scheduling next week for August.
Makes sense. I've been horrible my whole career at scheduling. I'm getting better finally, but for a while there, it was like week to week getting schedules out. The
Well,
organization I work, it's rough, and you're
yeah,
always scheduling.
it's stressful and I hate that. That's why I want to get a month so I don't have to think about it for a couple of weeks. I can handle the call-ins of, oh, I forgot to put this in at the end of the month because I didn't know about it. My parents told me type deal. I'd rather handle that than constantly be scheduling every week.
Yeah, it's been a hard shift, but the when I joined the organization in Corvallis, they published like 13-week schedules, and it's hard, but when it's done, and you get to move on. It helps that I don't know, it's probably 50% college. I don't even know if it's that because we're in a college town. Oregon State University's there, so that's a source of staff. But we also have a lot of post college or just not going to college staff, and also high school staff. The 13-week periods tend to actually work out. They tend to follow the college, but the high school students can usually make it work, and they can at least give us a good enough estimate based off of, they're a lot of times either they're working a lot and they know, or they're not working a lot and they don't know. So but that's been kind of game changing. It's I'm only a small part of that group with my maintenance team. I think I have like 6 people that I directly schedule, and I work around their other schedules with lifeguarding or teaching swim lessons or working at the front desk. This was the first summer I actually got all my maintenance stuff in for the 13 weeks, and it went super smooth. So that's my
Yeah.
plug.
My
And
deal is I'm dealing with a lot of high schoolers and some college people, and it's a month is hard for them. A month is very, very difficult for them to plan that far ahead. And they just don't typically plan that far ahead because of how young they are. Usually they don't really communicate very well with parents about what's coming up and all that. So I've found a month is a good number to get to keep my stress level down from doing it weekly or bi-weekly, and then it's not too far out in advance. I like the 13-week idea. I totally do that, but we are not. I do not have the staff that would be able to handle that.
yeah, it's and well, part of it is all these staff have always done it. So they
Yeah.
just know, like, oh, I got to turn in my spring availability, my fall availability, my summer. And we kind of do the philosophy. They can submit any time off request they want. They can turn in a time off request for, July 22nd of 2025. And as long as they get in before the schedule's published, it's granted. And so it puts some of the onus on them. Like I'm pushing all my people like, hey, Portland Comic Con is in like, we're about to publish that schedule that includes Comic Con. So get your time off request if you already bought tickets, because I don't want to see that you bought tickets and then you're suddenly sick on Saturday for your shift. Um, but once we publish, then it's on them to find a sub. We give them like about a 48-hour grace period of like, hey, schedule's out. Check it to see if we messed something up. If it's a mistake on our end, our fault, our bad, you're unassigned, we'll get you in. If it's, we had one yesterday, somebody came in late for a water fitness class. They're like, oh, I didn't know. When did you assign me to teach this? Well, let's look at, that's one of the nice things about when to work. That shift was assigned to you on a published schedule May 14th.
Yeah. Same with
It's been
deputy.
on your schedule. Yep.
Yeah. And and that's just a constant thing with scheduling and the people come in. But I do the same thing that you said with I do that 24, 48-hour grace period of like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna get this out. You look at your schedule, you talk to your parents, and they're like, oh, you can't work that day. I'll accommodate that. I'll pull you off the schedule and figure it out an adjustment. So I do the same thing with that.
Yeah. All right. I got a question I didn't put into the chat. So I want to see if I can do this very quickly with us live. And I spotted something on your desk, I think, that was the spur for this question. Let's see how quickly can I do this?
You saw something on my desk. Oh,
I did. It's good pool operator shop talk since we didn't get any heavy programmers in here. It's what's your preferred brand of power tools?
Well, my preferred brand is DeWalt, but I also use Milwaukee, and that's what you saw on my desk there.
Yep.
Milwaukee. I went with a small Milwaukee for my staff to use, and then I have DeWalt stuff that I don't want them touching.
Yeah. We standardize with our parks department because I also take care of like a spray pad and stuff. So when we're out in the field at the spray pad, we've got the same battery. So I've got the 20-volt DeWalt system. If I were to do it again for myself, I love the 12-volt Milwaukee set. Oh my goodness, such a great little set.
That's what I have for my guards. It's that little 12-volt, and it does a good job for the. I actually use it as a for all the stainless steel for polishing and cleaning. I just put a wheel on it, and they just go over there, and it makes it so because they're using their hands and they get tired and they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And ever since I brought the power tool on, they're like, this is actually fun. Can I go do this? It's like all of a sudden the power tool just made the job fun. It's the same job.
Right. Two Life Pro hacks that we found. This was actually my former supervisor bought this while I was on. I took another job for 6 months, and then it wasn't a good cultural fit, I felt like, and I hated the commute, and it was just more of an administrator desk job, and I just was not having fun. So my other job hadn't got filled, and so I went back to it. But while I was gone, I was a little skeptical of it, but the boss bought one of the 60-volt DeWalt leaf blowers. Game changer for cleaning up around your pool. Cordless leaf blower, and then
just blowing things off.
Then what we've added to our kit, we had a little bit of money at the end of our fiscal year. Those job site fans, those 20-volt DeWalt job site fans, we have those on our indoor guard stands. Such a little quality of life improvement, and you don't have to like run extension cords or anything like that, and they run for a good shift. And then the last hack on that is the 20-volt shop vac. The battery powered shop vac is a life changer at a pool.
What do you use it for?
I actually I bought two of them because I have one that's just for my like guards and stuff, that it's like this is the one that stays in the guard office. If somebody spills something, they drop a plate, we've got like a mess on the deck that you need to just clean up really quick, like absorbent or something because of like a blood spill, thing works wonderful. And you don't have to pack extension cords around. It's, because most of the time when they're doing stuff, it's not like it's a 6-trip job. Like I had an extra person, and we had an extra person. I said, hey, will you just go around and like quickly like run a quick brush over the floor drains and then just suck the stuff up. They just walked around, popped it up, no big deal at all.
That's a good idea. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, they're great. So that's kind of my last thought there. I have one more question on the stack since nobody else hopped in. We'll answer that, and we're about 10 o'clock, so I'll jump off after this question wrong button. Let's see. So water aerobic class etiquette. I laugh about this one because water
Yeah.
aerobics are a very particular group of patrons. Generally, I've worked at 8 aquatics facilities, and every single one of them, there is a high sense of ownership and
Yep.
engagement from those participants. That's a
Entitlement, I would also throw in there.
Yeah, there is. There's a that's a I've been working on in the mirror the diplomatic answer every time, but so I think class scheduling makes a big deal. If you can try to put compatible programs, again, that slow scale Aichi class during swim team, not a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, programming is definitely important. Scheduling is definitely important. I found that when I took over this facility, the schedule was very fluid, very, very fluid, which caused a lot of problems, particularly coming from our water aerobics area. And so to resolve that, I put hard times in. I said, this is when the water aerobics time starts. This is when it ends. This is when this other group comes in, because our water aerobics area it's a multi-purpose pool. So we have our handicap groups that come in. We have our swim lessons that come in. We have groups that sometimes have a specific time to do a workout that's not affiliated with the facility directly. It's like the college coming in and doing a workout. But having that hard schedule made things a lot better, and people were a lot happier in general. There was a couple instances where water aerobics were showing up 15 minutes before just to chit chat, and it was interfering with the program before. And so that was something that was a harder conversation, and we had to have that and say, listen, this time is for this group. If you want to come in early, you can come at a different time when there's nothing planned, and go to a different water aerobics class. But having that hard schedule made things a little bit easier for everybody.
Agree 100%, 100%. Especially if you can, I think it's, communication. I found, again, as somebody who's working and improving and growing, over communicating when I don't think somebody, like, it's like, why would they need to know that? I've tried to default to, I'm just going to let everybody know, like, not in the details, but just a broad overview of everything going on. And people are a lot more patient. And it also helps with, like, hey, in a month, we're going to have this thing going on. There's going to be an interruption to your class. 2 weeks before, instructors help remind us there's going to be this interruption to your class. The week before, there's going to be an interruption to your class, and then they show up and forget. They're a lot less grouchy. They're like, oh, I should have paid better attention. Yep.
Yeah.
So, well, we're pushing right at 10 o'clock, or at least my time, it's 10 o'clock. So that's right at an hour. It's been a pleasure, Kyle. I've had a lot of fun with this. I hope you jump in on future chats and we'll get other people on. Anything else you want to share before we sign off here?
No, have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. We'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.